Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
This week we're going to get into that one scene from No Country for Old Men.
Let's dive in. All right, everybody, I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palcher.
And if you like what you see/hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us on all the spaces and places that people find good media. We are going to do that one scene this week.
Guess what scene is that?
How much have you lost on the coin toss?
That's a good Javier.
I mean, we have to
No Country
say
for Old
No Country for Old Men, of course. We have to say that Javier Bardem, I think in every movie I've ever seen of his accent, his Spanish accent is very thick. I haven't really seen him ever try to do a different accent because he's a Spanish actor.
Sure.
And an incredibly sexy man, let's be fair. The salt and pepper hair.
Even with that haircut?
This is the thing. This is what I'm going with. So to take that rugged, handsome man, the Spanish Latin lover-esque kind of guy, and then to say, we're going to put you in a little Lord Fauntleroy hairdo and a pair of bell bottoms and like a green gabardine jacket. And then we want you to do your weirdest American accent as you can. And the words that slip, we're going to let them slip. In fact, those words slipping is going to be Anton Chigurh's thing, right? So when he's like, what time do you close? Like, the fact that it's weird is you're like, oh, he might be the Terminator, right? Like, his inability to show good human emotion or finish words correctly is part of his character.
No doubt. And you definitely question throughout this movie, is he human?
Right? Yeah, you do. Like, is he the embodiment of evil?
There's definitely the I want to see the world burn Joker side of his character, no doubt. Even probably more crazy, maybe. I don't know. Anton Chigurh is an epic character. You don't really feel like he's a human, and he actually does one thing in this scene. And he eats peanuts. That's the one thing. Like, oh, okay, so maybe he is a little bit.
But like, even the way he's eating is this weird methodical thing that doesn't make sense.
He at least needs that nourishment to some degree or something. Like, he wouldn't eat it because, I mean, some people eat for the love of food, and some people eat for pure necessity.
Right.
It could be cardboard, mint or something. Just anything, just whatever gets me by kind of thing.
Like, or even just, again, in that inhuman way of like, I'm going to pick up a bag of peanuts and eat them because that's what people do, right? In this way that does not in any way...
He's Starman to a degree.
Well,
right?
He is Starman. And here's an interesting thing, is that Chigurh, while the original book by Cormac McCarthy does have a lot of descriptions in it that really were where the Coens... pulled, obviously, like all of the thematic elements. I think this great idea of that our main three characters, one being the sheriff played by
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes. And then our hero and our villain very rarely intersect with one another. There's only a handful of times that they even encounter one another, right?
It's honestly not much.
Not much at all.
Yeah.
So that's very true to the book. Interestingly, the character Anton Chigurh is never visually described in the book, which meant it was left
whatever they want
to the Coens.
Oh, man.
To create their villain. And could you think of anything weirder? He looks like, do you remember the comedian Emo Phillips?
Yeah.
You're like, I went for a walk in the woods today. Like, that's what they did. They dressed up fucking Javier Bardem to be Emo Phillips, and then they gave him like a slaughterhouse rifle.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest idea for a villain ever.
I mean, if you look at the history of Coen Brothers characters, they generally have all of these weird idiosyncrasies, whether it's, John Goodman and Barton Fink, or I'm just trying to think of more of their villains. But
fucking Blood Simple, M.M. Walsh, right? Yeah. Where he drives around in the bug, and he's just like, they all are very idiosyncratic.
But he even has some of those Fargo-esque characters in this movie. You think of even like the cops, the Texas cops at the beginning, because really, like, if we're putting this scene in context of the movie, it's about 20 minutes into the movie. And it's
after this horrendous opening scene.
The first thing we see is him getting arrested, him in the little police station, killing that cop, and then stealing his car and getting another car and using the cattle gun to use it. And that's pretty much all we've seen. Then we have a big 15-minute section where it's Josh Brolin and Llewellyn's character. He finds the money. He sees the botched drug deal. He gets chased down a river by a dog. All of these crazy scenes, and that's one big section. And then boom, we jump right back to Art's. Art's Auto Supply, and we get the coin toss scene here with Art and everything. And it is fucking haunting watching him try to be normal, right?
Yeah.
And Art's just trying to make conversation. He's just being a normal hillbilly.
Yeah.
I don't think he has any clue of what's going on. But you think of the bookends of Tommy Lee Jones' character's monologue, right? And you think about kind of
going to hell and be there in about 15 minutes.
But just like his overall not understanding the wildness and unpredictability of man. Right?
Yeah.
I think there's honestly some Dawn of Man shit that we can relate to from 2001 here that we talk about, and how kind of the brutal violence and of Chigurh's character, and how it doesn't make any sense. And it's someone like a lowly cowboy sheriff just he just gets baffled by reading the paper of the stuff that's happening.
Let alone Al that works at the auto body shop, right?
Yep.
So here's an interesting side note. Also, is that in the book, this sequence, most of it is pretty spot on to the sequence in the book, with one big difference, that in the description of the auto body shop of this little gas station, it is dusk. It is dusk. The sun is so low that the sunset is coloring the window panes. What the Coens decided to do is to make it this indistinct time. Again, to go back to another one of that scenes, I'm thinking of the Winky scene from Mulholland Drive, where it's like, it's an indistinguishable period of time. It's not dusk, it's not dawn, it's just day.
Yeah.
The light's kind of pouring in. Now, with the dialogue staying the same, but the time of day being indistinguishable, the clerk saying, well, you better be on your way then. I got to close up.
When do you close?
When do you close? Right? And he's like, when it's dark, and it's in no way dark. If it had been darker outside,
it would have been a lot more haunting.
Or would it? The desperation in our clerk of say he's feeling something from Chigurh's character to say, you need to leave because I have to close up. And we look around and we're like, it's daylight. Why are you closing now?
Sure.
Then the whole conversation after that makes our character of the clerk seem so desperate to get the fuck away from this guy that it's like it raises the tension in its own way.
I think to a degree, but I also think, at least in that scene, it seems like Bardem's, depending on how this coin toss works out, he'll know when to come back. Right, that's kind of more.
That is also true.
That's more what I got out of it when he's asking when you
come
close.
Back then.
Like, but that is not a time.
Yeah, now is not a time. You don't know what you're talking about, do you? Just that inside.
He doesn't. Well, and him just reflecting on these, and I think this whole movie. When I initially saw this movie, not the biggest fan of it. Like I liked it, but I didn't totally understand what the Coens were completely going for. Now, I think it's one of their masterpieces. After watching it on multiple occasions, and like just the underlying themes of what's going on here, I don't think I totally grasp onto all of those. And so this movie is a lot about those coincidences, right? And fate. And, this guy just happened to be in Chigurh's pathway.
Yep.
And he has no idea that he's disturbing his pathway. And Shiger is such an unpredictable character that anything can set him off. And just this hit guy making conversation about, you know, you guys got rain up where you're at because he sees that he's from Dallas on his plates or something like that. It ticks him off. And he's like, all right, well, you're in my pathway. Let's let fate decide, you know.
And that's a very interesting aspect for this character. Again, you know, I'm of course thinking of somebody like Two-Face from Batman of using the coin to decide someone's fate.
Sure. Tommy Lee Jones also played Two-Face.
Oh fuck! I never.
Joel Schumacher.
Dude, you just blew my mind. You're totally right. I was thinking about Two-Face. I thought about that when I watched the sequence, and I totally forgot that poor Tommy Lee Jones was in that god-awful fucking Batman movie.
Freeze.
Oh, God. That's amazing, though. That's a great... see, that's why movies are so cool, you guys. But I would say this, like within that world of a comic book, that idea of a character leaving that up to fate, you're like, oh man, that's cool.
Especially
that's badass,
a character
right?
that crazy, right?
But here, for a character where it's like, Sugar only really makes the comment about like, why are you asking about my plates? Like, kind of nosy, aren't you? Right? Like that whole idea.
He's like, where did this come from? Oh, you married into it.
Oh, you married into it. There's no. It's not a way of looking at it. You married into it. But
it's just what it is. Yeah.
For him to still leave up to fate something that could really cause the authorities to find him is very interesting and very unusual, right? Because he's methodical. We know this about him. Like we have seen him, we have seen him destroy. We have seen him like carve a path that he needs to get through. So for him to do this, we go, oh, he's unpredictable in a way we didn't really understand.
I don't know if I would say he's methodical. I think he is to a degree when he's hunting people down, but with these instances where they throw him off, I think he's letting fate decide. Like, I don't know how methodical he is about these random encounters, right?
Right.
You know, and...
he has some ethos that we don't understand that he's following.
I don't think he's scared of being arrested. You know, the first scene we see him, he's in handcuffs.
He's been arrested and quickly
gets out of it
and just kills people.
Yeah, so it's pretty. I don't know how much I totally agree with that, but I don't know. Interesting too that this movie, or at least this scene in particular, there's nothing necessarily fancy about how they shot it. It's really more about Bardem's performance, which is obviously like just generational, and then the dialogue, right?
And the fact that these two people aren't really talking to each other, they're talking around each other in this very beautifully Coen-esque weird way, right? Where it's like, it is like music. It's like music watching these two people talk, and they're both locked into their own understanding, and they're bumping up against each other, but they're not communicating at all.
It's true, because Art is a very Coen Brothers, like he would be in Fargo, right? He would
completely.
He would be the cashier in Fargo,
completely.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Where Bardem is a little more of a unique Coen Brothers style character, although they do villains amazingly well and really do this one well. Not necessarily a character that you see them.
He's unlike anything they've ever made before.
Maybe John Goodman and Barton Fink is
maybe
close.
but even then, John Goodman and Barton Fink, he's funny in some way, and Bardem is not. Bardem is probably the most purely evil, irredeemable character that the Coens have ever put on film. I will say this, as far as like a fanciness of shooting goes, this is sort of the last thing I'll say about this. That peanut wrapper deserves an Oscar. That peanut wrapper does more acting in this clip than either one of these actors. The peanut wrapper is the key to the entire thing.
That's saying a lot.
But it's so the tension that it builds,
and that's the mastery of this scene. I agree, and it's something I watched this scene probably 3 or 4 times preparing for this, and it stood out
the
as like
way. I'm sorry, I'm not kidding at all.
I know you're not. I get
on
where you're going.
and then it looks like it's alive, and it kind of crinkles back again, and you're like, someone's gonna die right now. Who's gonna die?
Well, and it comes down to choices, right? And it comes down to the balance between fate and choice. And, you know, I don't necessarily think Chigurh is interested in chasing someone in this movie. Like, I don't even think he cares about the money, right? He just wants something to chase, right? Maybe it's money to a degree for motivation, but he ultimately doesn't really give a shit about the money. He just has to have something to watch the world burn.
Think back to when we were talking about my friend Dahmer and this idea of like psychopaths get bored really easily, right?
It gives them something to do.
It gives them something to do. Like even the coin toss thing is not some larger ethos that he believes in. Instead, it's this idea of like, this could be fun. Let's see what happens, right? And so, like, even the way he says to him, like, don't put it in your pocket.
Yeah.
You put it in your pocket, it becomes another coin. Then he looks at me and goes, which it is. Right? Exactly. Just at the end to toss that on top of the...
questioning his own logic.
All of it, right? Like, the whole thing is just like, I'm going to give you... You are just some guy who married into a convenience store, and I am going as an agent of chaos... I'm going to give you some shit to think about the rest of the day.
But it's so
or the rest of your life.
It's so important though. It's like the theme of the movie. It's like fear versus power, right? It's just like Llewellyn deciding, does he want to take the money and have all this shit follow him or not, and just go back home to his cute little girlfriend and his little double wide. You know, so like, you know, I think it's this scene kind of envelops the theme of the rest of the movie and what Tommy Lee Jones' character is talking about at the very beginning of trying to understand why men do things.
No, that's interesting.
So I don't know. I think, you know, I think he's leaving the encounter to chance because it's not really bearing on him one way or another. He could kill the guy and walk away, or the guy can flip heads and everything's fine and he got lucky.
And all of that philosophy that you just doled out is all like under the surface. Because I'm thinking of when Llewellyn finds the money. I mean, now we're off the scene, and he opens it and it's full of money, and the character's reaction is, huh. And that's it. Like later when his wife asks him, he's like, well, fuck, I don't know. Like, you got it. What? Yeah, look at this. We got to take it. Could be important, right? But everything you're talking about, there, like these deep philosophical things, is all just like bubbling and roiling underneath the river of this movie. And then what we see is just Anton Chigurh asking, like, how much have you lost on a coin toss before?
Just a quick dialogue scene with a coin toss, and it's so effective and so much underlying shit that's happening if you look at it in the whole perspective of the movie. This is one of those scenes where I think explaining more what the movie is about envelops the scene and enhances it.
Yeah, you don't have to actually say any of it. We already know this guy's a killer, and all we need to do is just watch this awkward, stilted conversation take place.
So awkward.
Last thing I'll say, fun fact for anybody out there, No Country for Old Men was the very first movie that the two of us ever reviewed when we started a podcast.
I was going to say that as well. This was the very first film we ever talked about. Episode 1,
2007?
March 2007.
March 2007, we reviewed No Country for Old Men.
Thank you for bringing that up. I thought about bringing that up, and I meant to, and yeah, thank you for
I didn't know how to record a podcast back then. I did it on GarageBand, and I was like, we already went 40 minutes. I have to start a part 2. Because I didn't know how to make an episode longer than 40 minutes. This is a different age.
14 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Please like and subscribe. Yes. We continue to do these one scenes and festivals every week. Love to have you along for the ride.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, you guys.